whoever just joined. We are starting now with the presentation of the Specializing Masters in Design for Food. We will be leaving the last part of the presentation for your questions. So please keep write your question into the Q&A section of your Zoom window, and we will be answering them at the end of the presentation. It's now my pleasure to leave the floor to the Professor Maffei.
Thank you very much, Federica, and welcome everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and presenting our new initiative. That is this Design for Food Master. It's a fantastic opportunity just because starting from this first slide, you see what are our keywords. So innovation, circularity, future. I think that this adventure that we are starting together with our partner of Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche Pollenzo, it's a kind of novelty in the panorama of the offering about this idea of designing food system. I think that these two perspectives, the one brought in by Politecnico di Milano, especially the design side, Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche, matches a characteristic that is, in my opinion, fundamental. That is this systemic view that we will try to traduce in our or translate in our proposal of master, that in my opinion is quite interesting. If you could go further with, yes, just to introduce the topics that we will discuss together this night. The first is the description of our goals. For sure, these two entities that are so qualified to produce this offer are fundamental to define our perspective in terms of differences between our program and the other program that we will discuss later. The second is a discussion of what could be the roles that we enable through our program in terms of empowering certain kind of capabilities that are able to produce a new role. I could define this that includes some specific skills that came from the technical and projectual tradition of Politecnico di Milano, and on the other side, the complete overall gastronomic and ecologic vision coming from Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche di Pollenzo. Then I will introduce you briefly also the structure of the course, in which we will try to let you understand better what is our framework in terms of contents and which kind of discipline will be involved in the program. If I ask Federica to move on. So first of all, I want to introduce why we did this. It's our story. We think that the complexity that food systems are reaching in our contemporary society needs a different approach that goes directly into the idea of transition, ecological transition, supported by what we do usually in our discipline, that is designing things that are quite different. It goes from the micro to the macro scale. So it goes from systems, but they also have the granularity of design a single element, a single artifact, always keeping in mind that we both act on tangible and intangible words. So it's also the word of values. It's also the word of ethics. Sometimes it's also the words of lifestyle. But we have to, for sure, discuss this deep inspiration with also other drivers that are brought in again by technological change, the change in society. It's a complex, a huge transformation we want to address, joining these two competencies. And to focus this, we try to list a kind of objective that we want to reach with our proposal, that also include in our perspective the idea that we want to understand and link this transformation to territories, And so interpreting the complexity that raise from system, but also from specific situated context. We want to have both projectual but also critical perspective. So we want to develop also this idea of producing alternative or extension to our actual system. Thus, this complexity could be part of this integrated vision in which we design from the micro to the macro scale, as I was saying before. And doing this, we imagine that we have to manage a lot of disciplinary perspective that on the polytechnical side will go for sure, touching the engineering disciplines, also the design discipline, as I was saying, but also other things that came, for example, from the management perspective that integrates our effort in transforming reality also with a business design kind of approach. If you imagine all this in terms of final result, here you find a specific word. It is a co-design and participatory approach in which we mix a kind of technical expertise with an approach that include co-producers that could go from citizen, institution, enterprises in this kind of transformation. If you go to the next slide, please. Yes, so starting with this, obviously what we could reach in terms of profiles that we produce through our educational action, we will find differences between what we could imagine could be the final result. First of all, we imagine that we could train research and innovation professionals that could be could join different kind of entities that could go from private enterprises, but they could also imagine to be employed in research center, for example, or institution in which we could develop inner competence that deals with this idea of transition. For sure, the second main role that could be addressed by our master is that of professional, being a professional, being a consultant in a lot of different entities that could range from a design consultancy agency to a real consultancy management, just to say, but also act as independent innovation expert that could, again, being part of this complex stakeholder system that goes from entrepreneur till the idea of being a civil servant. In this idea, I could add also my opinion that the deep transformation that are really happening in this food system and in society in general also leave the space to the idea of an entrepreneurial action. So not only being part of other initiatives that involve consultancy or research, but being real protagonists that could develop starting from understanding of how the system works and perhaps criticizing or finding opportunities within it in a new role that is that of an activist entrepreneur, starting from a personal idea of transformation that could be transformed in a real enterprise. For sure, this kind of role is probably the most innovative in this moment. And I think there are a lot of examples that you could find in the most interesting area of opportunity in the food system. I would ask also to my colleagues if they want to add something, because obviously we share this, but I think that also having added opinions could enrich a little bit the discussion also for our participants. I don't know if Anna or Nicola want to add something. No.
It's always hard to find a way to talk in this online situation. Yes, I just would like to emphasize that also by tradition, from our design school, and so our POLI.design system and the design system in Polini, we used to have several young entrepreneurs that actually imply their knowledge into the creation of a new company. So this would be absolutely not new. It's a kind of absolutely logical in continuity with what happens in the other masters and academic and professional masters. So I absolutely, I'm sure that this will be the case also for many of the participants to this master.
Yes, thank you, Anna. I think that I don't know if Nicola want to add something, but in case I could go on. I think that we try to put all this effort in trying to transform this intuition in something that is new also in terms of academic structure. So we developed a modular system that includes, as you see on the screen, different kind of contents, starting from what is the most theoretical part, that is produced through lectures of a faculty, an important faculty that is shared between Politecnico di Milano and Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche, but mixing in this faculty also people coming from professional or research experience that could add a kind of twist, that could also include a little bit more of diversity, that enlarge, I think, our vision. The second part of this structure is constituted by the idea of developing hands-on competencies that are linked to our, I think, a design-oriented perspective, even if we include also the understanding and the knowledge coming from Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche. Is made through a classic format that is usual for a design perspective, is workshop. So the idea of projecting something or designing something solution that could go as we see in the further slide, in relation with collaboration that we will define together with enterprises or institution. And just to mention, we already defined an activity that we'll do with a prestigious Italian food brand, that is Pasta Garofalo, just to say. And this, I think, will enhance a lot the possibility of putting to practice and understand deeply the content that we will produce for our students in a pragmatic perspective. And I think is an important piece of our learning process. Another important things would be, and then we will have some more description coming from our partner UniSG, that has a special experience in organizing study trips that could introduce really our students into that cultures deriving from what we call first territories. So giving to the students a deep knowledge and a kind of path in understanding specific area of our food system, also mixing through this, both an international global vision of how the food system are evolving, but also a peculiar characteristic deriving from the typical Italian setting, that is distributed characteristic of or distributed system of enterprises that work in the food system. Finally, we will end up in having a part that is dedicated to a real practice within a network of partners that is dedicated to the internship. If you move to the next slide, just to let you understand how we will transform this general category into a real structure. We will start in October 2021. And in the first part of the course, we will introduce what we call the theoretical basis. So the main vision, critical vision, the general introductory concept that we will use during the entire master. This is a kind of setup also to harmonize the culture of our participants, our students. And this will be transformed in something that deriving from our idea of being design-oriented, transformation-oriented course. We will continue the academic format, introducing a part in which we will introduce a lot of methodological, tool and practice contents that will allow our students to transform this theoretical based and critical approach into something that could be enabled in terms of action, in terms of real project. And this will include this workshop or study trips just to complete what we introduced before, our hands-on perspective. And we will end up at the end of the course, so the last part, from May to October, developing the personal project during the internship that will lead to the final discussion and to a work that they will develop during the internship period that will be a kind of complementary thing that will finally conclude the path in terms of education. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a general overview that try to let you understand better, which is also the mix between the two kind of competencies that came from Politecnico Milano, Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche di Pollenzo. I think that also Nicola was imagining to say something about that, also to, I think, pinpoint, underline also which are the specificities that came from Pollenzo side. Nicola.
Yes, thank you, Stefano. Good evening to everybody. I'm sorry if my connection will be not the best, but I am traveling, so I just stopped by for making this this meeting, but at the moment it seems okay. So I just start right away. Gastronomic sciences, it's a strange word, so we need to say some words because it's not like Politecnico of Milan that everybody knows and understands. Gastronomic sciences, it is a kind of container that was coined by us in Pollenzo in Piedmont in 2004. Now there are other universities in Italy that are, other departments in Italy that are named gastronomic sciences, but we are the only university, the whole university that is dedicated to food. Gastronomic sciences is a perspective that tries to address food from a systemic and holistic point of view. We have many disciplines that we teach, that we propose in the different programs, and also in these programs that we have a co-design with the friends of Politecnico of Milan. We have tried to bring this interdisciplinary perspective of gastronomic sciences into this course. So we have, as you can see, the yellow labels, some courses that goes from food ecology and food and trade law, food safety, food and taste science. So the so-called hard sciences or the natural sciences, till things like food aesthetics and communication, food anthropology, food system innovation for sustainability, that are not natural and hard sciences, they are humanities or they are social sciences. So the idea is to bring all these different disciplines and different skills, different expertise, directly to say something about food from a very peculiar, we think, way. The peculiar way is given by the fact that we are researchers and scholars that we have been trained and we have researched, in my case, since 20 years about food and about gastronomy. So we are supposed to be very expert of food. And the second, and in our place, all the students want to be focused just on food. So we bring a high level of specialization in food as a content, objects in the sense of different food, different kind of food, but also in the sense of the processes that are around food. Technological process, innovation process, but also social processes, historical processes, and also an idea of food for thought and thought for food. So we want to think through food about some hot topics, some urgent topics of our times, like sustainability, ecological crisis, environmental problems. So we want to tackle these things through food. And the second expertise that we have, that maybe Franco Facio, my colleague Franco Facio, will also address more specifically, is about this blend between theoretical disciplines and practical experiences, because we have developed a methodology that fulfill the theory with the practice, in the sense, especially in the sense of traveling, of making experience directly on field with the protagonists, that can be producers, can be farmers, can be chefs, cooks, whoever are dealing with food from different perspectives. So we have developed in the last 15 years this mix, this melange between theory and practice, as also Stefano was highlighted before. This is one of the main asset of this program, to balance the two things, the theory and the practice. So it aims to be a very innovative also way of teaching and learning under this respect. And food is at the same time the object, but also the tool, the means to make these advancements in learning, in innovation, in critical thinking, and it's also in creativity. So maybe, I don't know if...
I think you added a lot of thoughts and also information about this, I think, fantastic mix between your competencies as UniSG and Politecnico di Milano. I think that this kind of visualization depicts, in my opinion, a very simple but right way, this kind of connection, I think.
Yeah.
I think we share this idea of transition and transformation that, in my opinion, is quite important. And I think that you also underline this idea that we go from a granular perspective of the single object to the macro system. That is quite important, just because I think it's an original characteristic of the program that usually in our competitor is more specialized. So they usually they do something that is dedicated, I don't know, to food technologies or to ecology, just to say, or design certain part of the product, just food packaging. I think that this integration really goes into direction or seen as an holistic thing. And I think this is quite an original perspective. I think that following your thoughts, also because there is this part that is clearly addressed by your capabilities, I would leave the stage to Franco just to start describing what is already part of this experience that we offer to our students, that are the study trips. Franco.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Stefano. Good evening, everyone, also, and welcome also from my side to this presentation of the new Specializing Master in Design for Food. Just to add something on the theoretical part, are all scientific disciplines that will allow the student to explore the critical issue also. I can add this and the opportunities that characterize the food system today, I think, with the idea also of providing the necessary know-how to design innovation in the food system. But on the educational trips, furthermore, the structure of the master provides in the classroom during the workshops, and thanks also to the internship, a constant dialogue with companies, and therefore the production and distribution world. A world that we will go directly to know through two study trips to discover the producer and in particular the supply chain of local products typical of northern Italy and the wine supply chain. The educational trips aim at interacting the theoretical knowledge acquired in the classroom regarding the production, the processing, transport, consumption of food through, I think, a unique experience that combines on-site visit and in a real, obviously, context of the food sector. And to add a few more words about study trips, first of all, local food system is an in-the-field experience focused both on regional products and production processes, analyzed with respect to the geographical and cultural context in which they are found. This tour considers every level of the production system, from small producer to industrial production. Instead, wine system focuses on a specific Italian wine production region and allows students to experience firsthand a wide range of educational activities related to the wine supply chain. So it's characterized, for example, with meeting with producers, expert and professional wine tester, and all of these reveal the vital role that wine vocabulary plays in the industry, and allow also students to study the communication strategies of both small and large scale wineries. But if I have the opportunity to go also in the next slide, please, just a few words to try to answer to this question: why choose the master design for food? Explain my opinion, obviously, because I think that never as today the food system needs to be redesigned to reduce its negative impact on the environment. Therefore, we must be, I think, courageous in imagining new economic and social paradigms that can contribute to redesign all the food chain, to make the food system, I used three typical slow food words: fair, healthy, and environmental friendly, from farm to fork. So the food chain represents a primary and characterizing asset in the socioeconomic structure of any country. And the specializing master in design for food is precisely aimed at creating professionals able to manage the entire process from field to table or from farm to fork, as the European Commission said, passing through the most advanced production and service system, and as I said before, with a specific attention to sustainability in its various environmental and social aspects. What do you think, Stefano, about that?
Obviously, I agree with you. And if I may add something, I think that understanding all these things that you were mentioning also give, I think, to this new category of professional or entrepreneur, I don't know, the possibility to act directly in the system. I think that sometimes when you deal with a more specialized approach, you are not able to connect all the points in this system, all the level in the system. I think that the real, in my opinion, thing that makes the difference is this introduction of complexity and connection of different perspectives and levels. This, I think, would guarantee to the student the idea to have an open-minded attitude towards the idea of defining new problem settings. So finding problems that are interesting for society, but also for institution or the enterprises. On the other side, find sometimes some solution. So it's a balanced approach that I think it could be very effective, both in terms of professional or career opportunities, but also in terms of impact on society. So I think that I hope that we will act on both these kind of objectives. I don't know if Anna want to share some thoughts about this, about it's a kind of captatio benevolenza for our possible student. Yes.
Well, I think time is running, so maybe we can take the opportunity to describe a little bit better what we aim to do while answering some of the questions that I see coming.
Fantastic.
And
okay.
Some of them are about the workshops, basically, and so people participating now are trying to figuring out how the workshops will be. Most of all, we have to say that all the master is very much fond of multidisciplinarity, and so trying to connect the different background. Actually, we have already several students registered which have very diverse backgrounds. This will be the strength of the master, in our opinion. And so the workshops will be conducted with such a perspective, meaning trying to work with companies or organizations, they might be public or private, in order to find a solution for an issue, for a challenge. This solution will be pretty high level. So we want to focus on product design, for instance. Someone asked whether there is a particular possibility to design the tools of the chefs. It might be that some of you that has already this background in product design could go farther in thinking to the elements of the solution, including this part. But the workshops will really be a way to apply. So let's say to use design thinking to solve challenges, to tackle challenges which are more systemic. And I see that there are other questions that I think are around this same topic. So the workshops are very concrete opportunities to work at a systemic level, which are not two contradictory things, but are exactly what we believe is needed today in order to think in a more sustainable way also. So, I think, sorry, I'm trying to go through the questions.
Yeah, there is one, for example, about the type of candidates that you're looking for. So in this case, they're asking us if it's enough to have a passion for food and cook. So maybe it could be an opportunity to talk also about admissions requirement and this maybe topic.
Yes, Federica, if I may add something, just because we will
please.
have this final introduction of the characteristic for the enrollment, I would answer Lavinia, that is asking if her kind of career in terms of previous studies is adapt to enroll for the master. I could definitely say yes, just because she has a background as a food technologist. She's also involved in this idea of understanding law and regulation. So I would say it's the perfect candidate, just because we are searching for this mix of competencies that we really appreciate. Also because we could add on top of this the perspective of systemic understanding that goes from Polenzo's vision to a more design-oriented POLI one. So I think it's perfect, just to say. Instead for Garona, I think, yes, I think a specific answer is dedicated in the next slide, in which we will introduce the real enrollment
procedure.
Yeah, procedure. And in general, I don't think that only having a passion for food is sufficient, but it's a good starting point. So just to say, let's evaluate the official enrollment rules, and then if we can also deepen a little bit the discussion.
Thank you so much. And Lavinia, as you hear, your background is the perfect fit, so put an application through, definitely. I leave the floor to Elisa so she can talk about the admission requirements.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Elisa Piccini and I'm from the Education Office of POLI.design. Mainly here, I will give you some details about the admission and the selection process. As Professor Maffei and Professor Meroni, Fazio and Perullo were mentioning before, mainly the master covers very different, let's say, fields and teams. So mainly, as you see as well, the list of bachelor degrees or master degrees that are accepted to be from the official point of view to take part in the master goes from design to gastronomic sciences, from agriculture to social and humanistic sciences. So mainly the official requirements are many and many fields are accepted, many backgrounds of the candidates are accepted. Of course, from the official point of view, we will need some documents to be judged and evaluated, and in particular, the requirements that we will have that we will need you to submit to be selected are those that you may find here in the list on the left of the screen, and in particular on the website of POLI.design, in the specific page of the master itself, you will find the application form to be filled and the documents to be uploaded that are a CV, a motivation letter explaining why you would like to take part in the master, maybe with particular reference to your background. So what you would like to go deeper in, what you would like to face as a professional future from the professional objectives point of view. A portfolio, of course, in case you come from a background in design or architecture. Of course, if you are not, it's not a problem. You are not obliged, of course, to upload it. And then from, let's say, the formal point of view, we would need a scanning of your identity card or passport, a scanning of your bachelor degree, and a scanning of your university transcript. That's because after you will have submitted all the required documents, a single interview will be fixed with the master board, in which, of course, you will have some extra time to ask your question, and the board will have the opportunity to go deeper in your profile, so to understand a little bit better about your profile, motivation, and so on. And from the official point of view, the Office of Politecnico, that is in charge for the evaluation of foreign degrees, will process that in order to understand if your degree is recognized by the Italian Ministry of Education and University. So after having completed this selection process, you will receive an email with the details on whether, of course, you were admitted in the master or not. And in case of a positive evaluation, you will find all the details to complete the enrollment in the master. Mainly the cost for this master is 16,500 euro. In particular, they are split in 500 euro of enrollment matriculation fee to Politecnico di Milano and 16,000 euro of attendance fee. Of course, you will not be required to pay everything at once, but in case you will decide to complete the enrollment, you will have to pay a part of this amount in order to fix and to book your place for the master itself.
Thank you, Elisa. We are receiving another question, so I'm just going back to the list of questions. And of course, if you'd like to add anything to any of the speakers, please do. I know this is the first edition of the master, so it might be a little bit hard to talk about cases of graduates, but they're asking about typical career direction. So what is this master designed for?
If I could start giving some suggestions, so just to make example, you could start working in a typical design enterprise that deals with deeply with an industry like food systems. So it could go on a more professional kind of career, and starting from that, obviously there are possibility to move into large consultancies like Accenture or this kind of thing, or Deloitte, that are working both in design but in general in consultancy, especially starting from an entrepreneurial or business perspective, but moving into some also different kind of transformation. A second example could be being a part as a civil servant on institution. Just to say, let's make an example. There is an important research center that is in municipality, is food policy office that deals with a program and a regulation of the food system in a local scale, but it's a city scale, so an important scale. And doing this, its action is interacting both with other public institutions, but also with enterprise. Just to imagine school canteens, just to say, they do projects for that to optimize impact, minimizing waste, or having a better food education or food behavior. So a lot of things that again involves all this complex system of competency we could give to our students. Just to say, final example, let's say another thing could be urban agriculture and the idea of developing, starting from this emerging perspective, an entrepreneurial perspective that is dedicated to develop technologies that are adapt to produce a business result out of growing things in a technological structure within the city. And this is a completely different kind of entrepreneurship in which you have to mix a little bit of design, of technology, of business, and also develop a new kind of perspective in agriculture. This is completely new, and we have to verify if it's worth not the effort, the experiments, and the development. Just to say, examples. I don't know if you want to add something.
Maybe, Stefano, I will just try to complete your answer about, I don't remember, someone asked, since you don't have concrete feedback on the course, do you believe it covers a big aspect? I don't know what is a big aspect, but anyway, with regard to the previous question of the professional outcomes, I would say that, yes, this is the first edition, so we don't have any data yet, but in a way this master comes after having understood that there is a big room for even for really designers into the food sectors working at the systemic level. It is not by chance that if you guys have had the chance to watch some of the webinar that we presented, so the design for food stories, it is not by chance that 3 to 6 are alumni of Politecnico that are now in the position of doing business or working in big companies or experimenting with a new food system, in fact. So we are pretty sure that even more now, by complementing with different profiles, there are several career opportunities for people with this kind of background.
If I may add only one thing, very, very quick. I think that is also a specific and peculiar moment in history now, just because we are entering, I hope, the post-pandemic period, in which there will be a huge investment, or better to say investments, in terms of fighting some important global challenges. So starting from climate change, but for sure, we will act in terms of enabling a Green Deal and important part of this Green Deal is linked to the idea of transforming our food systems. So there will be an opportunity that is deriving from market and public investment in the sector, in the industry. So I think that being in tune and at the right moment, ready to enter this transformation, enter this wave of investment could be a great opportunity.
I think the Professor Fassi also wanted to add on. I don't know if it's on these questions or the previous one, please.
Yes, quickly, just to summarize all the skill, because at the end of the course participant, I think will be able to understand the social, economic, and environmental transformation of the food sector. And this is important from my point of view. Use theoretical and critical skill to define design opportunities for a specific food sector. Design complex solution, and also obviously concrete outputs in terms of product, service, communication, space, effect, etc. Another skill is the capacity to understand and use potential of the sector technologies, as well as the main elements of the production processes of the different supply chain. And so also manage the main elements of the food safety and planning. And finally, use specific design tools to design and manage whole stage in the process of conceiving, developing and implementing an innovative solution in advancing perspective that includes, as I said, and repeat, sustainable approach. So I think and concludes that, in my opinion, there are all very interesting skills in the current job market, I think.
Thank you. A final question. They're asking us if there is a description of where the students can find the description of each course that they will be studying.
Yes, we will publish the entire faculty, I think, in September, when we will start really the program. I think that there is at least a title by which you could understand a little about what could be the final offering that we will develop in the next month. What I could say again is that it's important to understand that they will use for completing this offering both the competence coming from POLI and USG, but we will have also an important addition coming from practice. So people coming from research center, consultancy, etc. So it's, I think, my opinion, obviously, fantastic mix, just because it's not really into only an academic perspective, and it's a more pragmatic and professional perspective. Okay.
Amazing. You actually anticipated one of the questions, because I wanted to ask if there was only professors from academic, but you already answered. So this, I think, is a great aspect of the master. I can see the Professor Perullo connected. I wanted to ask him if there was anything that you wanted to add before closing with our presentation, please.
Thank you. Not really. It was well, the questions that were made were the questions that are normally addressing to us for this kind of programs, and I think they have covered, and also the answer were quite inclusive, and so I don't have any specific observation to add. I just want to say again that we are very proud to be partner of Polytechnic of Milan for this challenge. It's a challenge, and of course, this year was not the best to start because we were unlucky in the sense of the pandemic and of the situation with COVID, and we hope that now we can have better luck and we can start with all the potentialities that we have. There are a lot of potentialities in this program, and I'm confident that the students will understand this and will give us trust for making a great program and a great opportunity also for their careers after the studying. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really like to thank the Professor Maffei, Professor Meroni, Professor Fassi and Perullo for staying connected, for the presentation of this very unique master, and all of you for staying connected and for all of your questions. So there will be a dedicated website where you can find more information, and I just wanted to leave in the chat the link to the Digital Open Day. In here, you will find more information, and also over the next few days, we will be putting a link to see a recording of the event. So in case you want to watch again the presentation because you missed some of the elements, you will be able to do it. It's been a great pleasure for me to be part of these 2 amazing days and to hear about the specializing masters. And it's great to hear that there is so many opportunities for the students out there. And I really hope for you that listen that was as interested as I think it was. And we look forward to seeing you soon at POLI.design then. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Federica. Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure to...
Bye-bye.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Ciao. Bye.
Ciao.